Welcome back to Coffee with Moshe. Hope you're enjoying the series. A little bit of history, a little bit of going down memory lane and trying to remember things that impacted our style of Krav Maga over the years. So during the period that I began to return to New York for yearly visits, I would look for martial arts schools of various types and just try to experience something new. And I basically went by what I found in the yellow pages. And I found an interesting looking place. I just made a list of places and I went to every place I could. I called them up. There was one place I couldn't go train, unfortunately, a place called White Eyebrow Kung Fu, where some Chinese gentleman answered the phone and he said, "Why watch? If train, train. No, watch, watch. Goodbye." And I didn't get to go to that place. But I did get to go to several other places. And one place that left a mark was a place on Chambers Street in downtown New York City, a place that later on I found that was considered dangerous and a no-go zone and a bad neighborhood, as they say, but I wasn't really aware of that. I was kind of oblivious to dangerous neighborhoods. I just felt I blended in everywhere. And I went down there. There's a place called V. Arnis Ju-Jitsu, which for those of you who know the style, it's a style of Ju-Jitsu. The guy who created it was called Professor V. He had a long name, but that was his name for short, Professor V. And I went down there and I came into the place and I was greeted warmly by a very strong and tall man named David James. And I remember he greeted me with a big handshake that totally enveloped my own hand, and I felt the warm embrace of his handshake and the warm embrace of the entire atmosphere. I remember the walls were covered with newspaper clips and articles and trophies and all kinds of martial arts paraphernalia. So it was like a dojo and a museum at once, at the same time. It was absolutely wonderful training. I went in there and I trained there several times, and David James greeted me warmly and welcomed me on behalf of the whole group. And he told everyone, "This is an instructor from Israel, please welcome me warmly," etc., and treat me like everybody else. I've got to say that the techniques were a series of like Ju-Jitsu katas, so to speak. Interesting, a little bit hard to memorize, a little bit complicated, but the training was outstanding. And one thing I remember in particular was when we were working on the bags, doing the full contact, like hitting hard, and I was holding the bag for some of the other students. I don't think in my entire life I felt that kind of power going into the bag. I was working with this one woman, and it was mixed training, men and women. One woman, and if you look at the picture, which I'll show you in a minute, I later on discovered that I was the only quote-unquote white person there, or certainly the only Jewish person there, but it didn't even occur to me at the time. To me, it was just a bunch of people training. But this one girl, black girl, I'm telling you, I've never felt someone punch that hard in my entire life. I don't know where she got the power from, but these were tough people. These were a pretty tough group. And I took a group photo at my last session there, which I'd like to share with you now. And later on, when I went to Brooklyn to show it to a rabbi that I knew, to share my experiences with him, he took a look at the picture and he saw the size of these people, and he said, "These are the kind of people we're usually running away from." He says, "What do they need self-defense training for?" But these people were living in a very difficult neighborhood, very challenging neighborhood, and they were indeed very interested in self-defense. Today's featured coffee is Shamon coffee, which is a gift from Herbert Shamon of Germany. It says right here, Kern. I've had the privilege of visiting him in Kern and visiting his coffee shop. It's like heaven if you like coffee, getting to try all the different coffees. Wonderful man, wonderful coffee. So back to Chambers Street all those years ago. It was a fantastic experience, wonderful people, wonderful camaraderie. Just a great place. And I went from dojo to dojo, from school to school. I went to some boxing gyms. I went to a kung fu school. I forgot where it was, also Lower Manhattan. Can't remember the name exactly. There's something called Bu Wei, some sort of free-flowing style. Again, I trained there several times, was greeted warmly every place I went. and just thoroughly enjoyed the training in those days, and all those things eventually became part of my collective experience.